Walter Cronkite was a giant in the world of news. He was a steady presence in American homes for decades. Every night, millions tuned in to hear his reports on the CBS Evening News. He covered some of the biggest events of the 20th century. He earned the nickname the most trusted man in America. In February 1968, Cronkite delivered a special report on the Vietnam War. The Tet Offensive had just shaken America. Cronkite traveled to Vietnam to see the situation firsthand. He returned with a grim assessment of the conflict. Cronkite's report had a profound impact on the American public. Many saw it as a turning point in the war. Some even credit him with turning the tide of public opinion against the conflict. But the question remains, did Walter Cronkite really turn the Vietnam War? To understand the impact of Cronkite's broadcast, we need to consider the context. We need to look at the media landscape of the time. We need to examine the public sentiment surrounding the war. And we need to analyze the role of other media figures. The Tet Offensive was a turning point in the Vietnam War. In January 1968, North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces launched a series of coordinated attacks. They targeted cities and military installations throughout South Vietnam. The offensive was a military defeat for the communists. However, it was a political victory. It exposed the weaknesses of the American position in Vietnam. It shocked the American public. Many began to question the government's handling of the war. The Tet Offensive fueled growing anti-war sentiment. Protests erupted across the United States. College campuses became centers of dissent. The public was increasingly divided on the war. Cronkite's broadcast came at a time of heightened tension and uncertainty. The nation was looking for answers. Cronkite, with his reputation for honesty and integrity, was seen as a reliable source of information. In his February 1968 broadcast, Cronkite did not mince words. We have been too often disappointed by the optimism of the American leaders, both in Vietnam and Washington, to have faith any longer in the silver linings they find in the darkest clouds, he declared. Cronkite stated that the war was mired in stalemate. He suggested that only a negotiated settlement could end the conflict. This was a stark contrast to the Johnson administration's optimistic pronouncements. Cronkite's words carried immense weight. He was not a pundit or a politician. He was a journalist, known for his impartiality and his commitment to reporting the facts. When he spoke, people listened. President Lyndon B. Johnson reportedly watched Cronkite's broadcast. He is said to have remarked, "If I've lost Cronkite, I've lost Middle America." This quote, apocryphal or not, speaks volumes about Cronkite's perceived influence. Section 4, The Trust of a Nation, Cronkite's Legacy. Cronkite's credibility was built over decades. He began his career in the 1930s. He covered World War II for United Press International. He joined CBS in 1950 and quickly became a household name. He anchored the CBS Evening News from 1962 to 1981. He covered major events like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the Watergate scandal, and the Iran hostage crisis. Through it all, he remained a calm and reassuring presence. By 1968, Cronkite was more than just a news anchor. He was an American institution. He embodied trustworthiness and integrity. His viewers believed what he said. This trust amplified the impact of his Vietnam broadcast. His words carried the weight of authority. They resonated with a public already growing weary of war. Section 5, A Sea of Change, Public Sentiment and the Vietnam War. It is important to note that Cronkite's broadcast did not occur in a vacuum. By 1968, public opinion on the Vietnam War had been shifting for some time. The Tet Offensive merely accelerated this shift. The rising casualty count weighed heavily on the American psyche. Images of the conflict beamed into living rooms every night, brought the horrors of war home. The anti-war movement was gaining momentum. Cronkite's broadcast reflected, rather than caused, this shift in public sentiment. He tapped into a growing sense of disillusionment and unease. His words gave voice to the doubts and fears of many Americans. To argue that Cronkite single-handedly turned the tide of public opinion is an oversimplification. However, his broadcast undoubtedly had a significant impact. It confirmed the suspicions of many Americans. It lent credence to the anti-war movement's message. Section 6. The power of the media shaping perceptions. The Vietnam War was the first televised war. For the first time, Americans could watch images of the conflict in their homes. This had a profound impact on public perceptions of the war. The media played a crucial role in shaping public opinion. Television networks like CBS brought the war into American living rooms. Newspapers and magazines provided in-depth coverage and analysis. However, the media landscape of the 1960s was very different from today's fragmented media environment. There were only 3 major television networks. Newspapers had large readerships. This gave figures like Walter Cronkite enormous influence. Cronkite's broadcast demonstrated the power of the media to shape public opinion. It showed how a single news report could have a significant impact on national discourse. Section 7. A lasting legacy, media influence, then and now. The debate over Walter Cronkite's influence on the Vietnam War continues to this day. Some argue that his broadcast was a turning point in the conflict. Others maintain that it merely reflected a pre-existing shift in public opinion. Regardless of one's stance on this issue, there is no denying that Cronkite's broadcast was a significant cultural moment. It highlighted the power of the media to shape public perception. It underscored the importance of a free and independent press. In today's fragmented media environment, it is easy to be cynical about the influence of any one news source. However, Cronkite's legacy reminds us that journalism can have a profound impact on society. It reminds us to be critical consumers of news and information, and it reminds us of the importance of seeking out diverse perspectives. The Vietnam War was a watershed moment in American history. It was a time of social and political upheaval. It was a time when the power of the media was on full display. And it was a time when one man's